guys, it's your boy Luke here for our fades and sleepers for this week's Honda Classic. Here in this video, we'll be covering some of the guys I think that are a little bit overhyped for GPP contests, my fades, and of course some of the diamonds in the rough, people being a little bit overlooked, my sleeper picks that could really go out there and win you some of these large field tournaments. Of course here, the goal is to avoid some of the chalk that is inevitably going to go out there and miss the cut, and of course to unravel some of those diamonds in the rough in those large field contests for leverage. We'll go ahead and start off with our fades. First off with Tommy Fleetwood at $9,900. He's somebody who both in the outright market and in DFS just seems to be overpriced. I mean, this is somebody who hasn't been a winner on the PGA Tour, even though he's done it over there on the European Tour, again, DP World Tour. He's posted some solid results here in the fall and of course the spring. He just hasn't been able to do it in America. It's another level of golf. Of course, the field's much stronger over here stateside. And until we start to see him competing again like he was in 2019, even in 2020, he's not somebody I'm going to be investing in at the top of the board, and especially not in the outright market where he's 14 to 1. So somebody that'll be fading in pretty much every market this week. You can see on Bermuda grass, it has been far from his best surface on the PGA Tour. And even though he's looked decent over there in Saudi Arabia for some of these DP World Tour events, we don't have shots gained data for over there. Of course, we were dealing with relatively weak field events, but from what we've seen from a Tommy Fleetwood, if we go ahead and look at the last 50 measured rounds, give him enough of a sample size there, you'll see that he's losing with the putter. That's not all that surprising. Losing around the green, that is a little bit surprising. He's typically at least adequate around the green, but the ball striking numbers haven't been there either, and that's the issue. He hasn't really been stellar in any part of his game. Over there in Saudi Arabia, it did look like his irons were sharp, so probably gaining a third, a fourth of a stroke per round in that category. But at the same time, it's from what we've seen over here stateside, it looks like a completely different level of the game. I mean, he's an elite player over there on the European Tour, but over here stateside might just be an above average player. That just might be his level of pedigree at this point. No doubting that he's consistent, but he's not somebody that I'm investing $9,900 into, particularly when he's relatively chalky there at 15.2%. Of course, Billy Horschel, one of my core plays this week, somebody that I'd be more than willing to pay down for, or even Brooks Koepka, who we're going to talk about in the sleepers list, somebody that I'd much rather be using in these DFS contests. Next up, our next fade is going to be Patrick Reed, coming in at 20.7% projected ownership at $8,800. It's not like this guy showed any form last week. I mean, he looked atrocious, went out there, shot 4 over par on day 1. Day 2 was a little bit better, ended up coming in at even par. But if we're saying that even par is a good day for Patrick Reed, that should tell you the kind of form that he's in. In fact, if we take a look at his recent form, you can see it's a missed cut here, a 46th place at the Farmers, a 55th at the Amex. So even when he's gone out there and made cuts, it hasn't looked very good. For Patrick Reed, that's worrisome, particularly when we're investing 30-40% of our lineups into him to get leverage. And of course, the shots gained metrics look even uglier. If you take a look at them, you can see he's losing 0.4 of a stroke per round off the tee. That's the worst number we've seen from him for his career. He's losing 1/4 of a stroke per round on approach. And of course, the putting and around the green is always going to be there for Patrick Reed. You can see he's still gaining nearly half a stroke per round. And if the ball striking remains this bad, he's not going to post anything good soon. So I'm going to wait and see on Patrick Reed. There's guys in the range I like a whole lot more. Of course, Johnny Vegas is somebody that I really like on the slate. Even Aaron Wise, somebody who was in my core plays video. If I wanted to spend up a little bit, Mito Pereira, he might seem a little bit expensive, especially from where he probably should be. Should be probably closer to $8,400, $8,500. But definitely models out well for this golf course. And you see he's a top 5 fit for me. So I'd much rather go in either direction there. And now lastly, the last person that we're fading on this slate, the person who came in second at the Genesis, Cameron Young. Absolutely love this guy's game going forward. You can see the metrics, absolutely love the kid as well. He's top 10 in that category. I really worry about the driving accuracy. I mean, at this golf course, you have water in play on 15 of the 18 holes, and the other 3 have dense forest in play. So pretty much no matter what, if you're spraying it here at PGA National, you're going to get bitten. And you can see that Cameron Young sure can get it out there with the driver, but he is not very accurate. And from time to time, he sprays it. So somebody who is more than likely going to fall victim to those water hazards around PGA National. So I don't really understand the price, and I also don't understand the betting market on him or even the ownership here in DFS. If you just think about it logically, especially with the course fit, he's going to run into trouble. So again, the sample size of Bermuda grass is small, but he's been excellent on it. I mean, we know the ball striking numbers from Cameron Young have been awesome, but as much as I like all of those metrics going forward, and he's going to be a staple on this channel going forward, I can promise you that. Anytime somebody has that ball striking acumen, you know I'm going to be all over the kid going forward. This just isn't the course for it, right? He's going to fall into some of that trouble off the tee. So if he's going to be anywhere near 15, 16% projected ownership, I'm going to be a clear fade for me in DFS. Next up, let's talk about our sleeper picks. And as promised, going to talk about Brooks Koepka at $10,100. He's definitely overpriced, especially if you consider the recent form. I mean, outside of the Waste Management Phoenix Open, really didn't do much of anything. If you take a look at that, you'll see at the top of the board that Brooks missed cut, third missed cut. Before that was another missed cut. That's why we were fading him there at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Of course, he goes out there and finishes in third place. But at the end of the day, the shots gained metrics at that event looked excellent. The ball striking was back. The putter was really what held him back from winning that event. And historically on Bermuda grass, you can see it's by far his best surface. He gains 0.6 of a stroke per round on Bermuda grass, and that shouldn't be a surprise. He's from Palm Beach Gardens. He's from Florida. And anybody that's from Florida knows that putting on Bermuda grass when you're from Florida is way easier than when you're out of town. I mean, you're just used to the grain. You've been putting on it your entire life. And when you're reading greens, if you don't see that grain and you're from Florida, it throws you off, right? It's helpful because you can see the color changes in the green and you have to do less work. You just read the grain, you put it along that grain, and you drain your putts. And if you get really, really good at reading those greens, you can see splits like what you see with a Brooks Koepka, who on POA, on Bend, all the other surfaces, is a loser to the field, but on Bermuda grass, he's got the magic broomstick working, right? So 0.6 shots gained per round in that category. Again, if you take a look at the recent form metrics, even if we let's take the zoom in approach first to show you what's concerning here. Of course, losing in pretty much every category. The thing is, a few weeks ago, these were much worse. I mean, off the tee was closer to 0.2 of a stroke loss per round. Approach was about 1/4 of a stroke loss per round. Around the green was close to 1/2 a stroke loss per round. And the putter, I believe, is right around neutral. So you can see, obviously, at the Waste Management, even with the last miscut, still has improved on a lot of those statistics. So somebody, if we take a zoom out on, of course, the last 50 measured rounds, it does get a little bit better, right? Gaining over 1/3 of a stroke off the tee. Approach play has been a little bit less consistent. The putter, so much so as well, but he's gotten back to his roots, right? Gaining with the ball striking the more and more that we zoom out. If he does that at this golf course, which is very difficult, he's very used to the wind down here in Florida. He's good on Bermuda grass. I don't want to say that he cares about this event. This is probably the event he probably cares about the least on the PGA Tour schedule. But he's still one of the best players in the world. And I know the whole narrative thing's out there. You only want to play him at high-tier events, major championships, blah, 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 blah. I guess that's why he's coming in at just 14% ownership. I guess that's why he's 22-1 in the betting market this week. And if we're going to get juicy numbers like that in this type of field, I mean, guys, Brooks Koepka, if this was a major championship and this just happened to be the field, he'd be like 90% owned, right? I mean, obviously, literally everyone would just be locking him into every single lineup. Why do we do that to ourselves? That's what I want to ask you guys, is why does that change our ownership so much just where we're at? I know there's something to be said for it, but it could also just be a fluke, right? And this is somebody that I want to back here. He's from the area. If there's any tournament that he might just go out and decide to win, it's his hometown event, right? He's sleeping in his own bed, waking up. He's going to know a lot of people in the crowd. Maybe he wants to go off and show off for them. Would not surprise me at all. I also have an outright bet on Brooks Koepka. That's how much I believe in that type of thing. Next up, our next sleeper pick is going to be Johnny Vegas at $8,500. I don't necessarily know if it's really a sleeper pick. I mean, if we go ahead and take a look at the course history here, it's immaculate. 30th, 27th, 16th, 72nd. He made the cut, but he stunk that year. A 4th place finish. I mean, of course, Brooks Koepka, I guess I should have shown this to you guys before. He does have that 2nd place finish there in 2019. He has a few missed cuts mixed in there as well. But he's got a volatile course history. Johnny Vegas, one of the most consistent course histories you're going to find. Jason Dufner has also made the cut the last 5 years. With his skill set, you wouldn't necessarily expect that, right? Vegas is more of an off-the-tee specialist, really gets it out there with that distance, can be really solid with the approach play, which of course is going to pay him huge dividends at this type of hard venue. But he's not an up-and-down guy. He's not somebody who's good at getting chip shots around the green close, that type of thing. And a lot of times, it's those shorter hitters that win this event. The other way to win this event, the other blueprint, is just to be that solid with your ball striking that you're never in trouble to begin with. So of course that's the route that Vegas takes usually at this golf course. The fact that he's the lowest owned option in this range, I mean, half the ownership of a Patrick Reed, a solid 4% less than a Cameron Young. You can see he's right around the same ownership as guys like a Mackenzie Hughes, less than an Aaron Wise. That just doesn't make sense, right? The guy's got elite course history. The recent form hasn't been all that great, but you'll see even with no crazy performances to speak of, the shots gained still looks great. Gaining nearly half a stroke gained off per round off the tee, nearly a quarter of a stroke on approach. Around the green, again, never really a strong suit for him, and the putter, never really a strong suit either. So it's not really something I'm going to hold against him. He goes in the opposite direction, right? He's not that shorter hitter, plotter type of blueprint. He's that bomber, gouge, take this place apart with your ball striking type of thing. Lastly, we're going to have Russell Knox at $8,100, and this might be one of my favorite plays of the year. Somebody who's coming in with maybe one of the craziest forms that we've seen in quite some time. But take a look at this. He's gaining nearly a stroke per round on approach, and this isn't John Rahm, where if we see that over the last 24 measured rounds, we're like, oh, okay, he went out there, was playing like the world #1 for a few events. Russell Knox is hitting the ball on approach like the world #1 for the last 6 events. Ridiculous. Off the tee, he's been just as good. The ball striking has just been on another level for Russell Knox. He's already one of the most accurate drivers in the world. Of course, that is very handy around a place like PGA National. The putter in the around the green is never really going to be there for Russell Knox. But much like I said with Johnny Vegas, the other way to get it done here is just to be extremely precise. And I'm completely okay with doing that with guys here in the 8K range. Of course, up top, you want more of a well-rounded player, but you're only going to get what you're paying for. And at some point, some of these guys in the 8K range that are typically 6 or even 7K golfers, you're going to have to try and latch on to something. And for me, that's going to be approach play this week. Again, getting nearly a stroke per round over his last 24 measured rounds. Coming in at just 8.2% projected ownership as well, so not somebody who's getting a lot of steam from the industry. If you take a look at the course history, he's also somebody who's had some success here. Outside of those missed cuts, years before that, he does have a few top 25s, so he is volatile here. That's why he's coming in with single-digit ownership. But of course, what we're really trying to hunker down on here, if we go down to Russell Knox's record here, is the recent form. I mean, 33rd, 33rd, 33rd. It's a missed cut, a few other made cuts before that. The guy is just a cut-making machine. Of course, when the difficult conditions arise, he's somebody who's from Scotland, has that lower ball flight, is used to having to deal with blustery conditions to begin with. He could go out there and instead of posting a top 33, top 25 finish, that could end up being a top 10 or top 5 this week. And of course, that's what we're looking for in DFS. It looks like that course history is probably keeping this ownership down. So I don't want to say that's not a concern because we have seen course history at PGA National be a thing. We've seen some quite correlated results, right? Like guys like Jason Dufner that just go out there and make the cut every single year. So I don't want to completely take that out of the book here. But in terms of what we've seen over the last 24 measured rounds, in terms of what should fit this golf course, he fits all of those metrics. So why not Russell Knox to go out there, break the trend of missed cuts at this event, and go out there and post something special. So that's why he's going to be in our lineups, particularly as one of the lowest owned options in this range. That's all we've got for this week's fades and sleepers. Before we go on and get out of here, go ahead and let me know down in the comments, first off, who your biggest fade is for this week, and of course, who your biggest sleeper pick is. We're going to have our normal DFS live stream tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so make sure to go ahead and look forward to that. We'll be covering the weather, my player poll, ownership updates, any of your live questions, all that sort of fun stuff. We'll have prize picks content throughout the weekend, showdown content as well. So lots to come. I'm going to be at the event every single day. Tomorrow we will have that special piece of content dropping, a live report from the golf course, which I'm going to be doing in video form. I've decided to not do it in stream form. What we're going to do is I'm going to take snippets from the course. I'm going to walk around for about an hour or two, come home, edit it, put it right up on YouTube. So expect that sometime around like 3, 4 that afternoon, maybe a little bit sooner. I can get that edited and uploaded a little bit quicker than I expect, but going to be extremely useful. I mean, I'm going to look at the rough length, going to figure out how fast these greens are moving, going to see if I can ask a player or two how they think the course is running, what type of skill set they think is going to succeed, because I don't think that's a question that they're asked enough, right? Who do you think does well this week? And I'm not going to ask for names. I'm going to say, well, like, what type of skill set? The guys that are more accurate, the bombers, or the guys that are really good on the greens? And I'm sure I might, if I can get access to one of these players, I might get a really good answer from them. So would love to hear that from them firsthand. So look forward to all of that, guys. Good luck with all of your DFS lineups for this week, and let's get this cash.